Have you ever found yourself reminiscing about those classic Nintendo games that shaped your childhood, only to realize they've been collecting dust for way too long? Well, you're not alone. Nintendo has an incredible library of treasured IPs and beloved franchises that have been absent from the gaming landscape for far too long. It's frustrating to think about all these amazing experiences we could have had with the Switch 1, but instead, they're just collecting digital dust. However, with the new Switch 2 just right around the corner, ready to be revealed at any time now, and no, I'm not talking about some alarm clock here, I think now would be a better time than any to talk about some potential franchises that could make a triumphant return. What's up guys, Tactics here with another one for you. The nostalgia today is real guys, and it's time to talk about the top 10 games that need to make a huge comeback for the Nintendo Switch 2. Let's not waste any time and kick things off with number 10, starting off with Donkey Kong. This franchise has always been a staple when it came to Nintendo IPs and has gone on to be a great platformer alongside Mario. However, in recent years, Donkey Kong has taken a bit of a backseat in terms of new games and also innovative platforming mechanics. Instead, Nintendo insists for some reason on continuing to port over these older, albeit great 2D sides. Well, I guess technically they are 3D games, but 3D, 2D side-scrolling platformer games. And even though people loved these games when they came out at the time, there still seemed like there was something missing from all of this. And what I'm talking about is, well, I don't know, maybe like a actual 3D Donkey Kong game, I guess. People have been screaming from the rooftops for a new 3D style Donkey Kong game, much like in the form of, say, something like Donkey Kong Country 64. And with the Nintendo Switch 2's supposed hardware capabilities, I think there is a strong possibility that we could see something from the King of the Jungle. I don't even think the story needs to be all that amazing, like just have like a villain come and steal DK's stash of bananas or something, and then you gotta go on a wild goose chase to get them, only for them to be in like another castle or something. As long as the gameplay is good and keeps players glued to the screen, I can see DK truly making a nice comeback. Now this next game might be a bit of a weird one for a lot of people who have never really played this game, or rather heard of it, being Mischief Makers. I believe only the OGs out there can probably appreciate this weird and quirky game. Shout out to you guys, by the way. But this is a game where you play as Marina, and your goal is basically to save this man. So it's basically like a Mario game, if Mario was a female cyborg that knows how to shake things up. And you venture through this weird land to save your favorite professor from the bad guys. Aside from the story, the game is another side scroller with its own interesting mechanics, and the absolute crazy but wild tunes of the soundtrack will leave you wanting more adventures of the heroic robotic Marina and her goofy ass perverted professor. Speaking of weird games though, at number 8 we have the Mother series. I've always found this series to be some pretty weird and trippy games. And although I've never played these games myself before, I do know that it is a beloved franchise that has gained a significant following over the years, being a pretty awesome RPG. There were even people who I think made an English translated version of one of the games or something like that at one point. But in recent years, I think Nintendo has made it a little bit more possible to play through the Mother series, and even though I think Mother 3 wrapped up the series pretty well, that isn't to say that a new Mother game can start a whole new story with new characters and of course new villains as well. Overall, I would love to see more representation of the Mother series, like Ness and Lucas even make an appearance in like the next Super Smash Bros. Game or something, since that's pretty much where I was introduced to the series at. But what are your thoughts on this beloved franchise? Now moving on to number 7, we have Diddy Kong Racing. Now back in the day, I was a huge fan of racing games, and Diddy Kong Racing was a strong competitor against Mario Kart. Honestly, I believe we need more racing games besides Mario Kart. Like, it's been the king of racing games for generations now, and it's high time that we demand a new style of racing other than Mario Kart. And I do think Diddy Kong Racing would be a nice addition. However, I think if there is a new demand for a new style of racing games that Nintendo could give us, I think there is another franchise that would fit the bill even better than Diddy Kong Racing. That's right, baby. At number 6, I'm talking about F-Zero. This high-speed racing franchise has been dormant since like the early 2000s, leaving fans with a severe lack of fast-paced, futuristic action that you won't find in your typical Mario Kart. Not to mention bringing back the absolute Giga Chad that is Captain Falcon. To tell you the truth, I'm quite shocked Nintendo hasn't done anything for F-Zero in years, considering just how much people have been begging Nintendo for a new F-Zero game, well, for years now. But you know what? With Samus making a big comeback with the new Metroid game coming out for Switch 2 most likely, I suppose you could say that, well, anything is possible. And if you guys are enjoying the video so far, I would really appreciate it if you can hit that like button for me and subscribe if you haven't already for more content like this. Thank you again, guys. But with that out of the way, let's get back to the list with number 5. Alright, now we're getting into Kid Icarus. When I first saw this character in Smash Bros. Brawl, I was legit kind of confused. Like, did Nintendo just spawn this character out of their ass? But no, he's been around collecting dust on those wings for a long time. Kid Icarus is a cult classic that has gained a huge following of fans thanks to the recent Kid Icarus Uprising that came out on the 3DS. This action-adventure franchise has immense potential. It's a shame that Nintendo hasn't really done more for this franchise either. And that's the issue I have with Nintendo. They have all these crazy IPs and other games that they've had out in the past, but choose to stick to a small percentage of them to just drive sales. And the last 3 entries on this list are probably some of the worst offenders of that treatment. But before we get into them, let's go ahead and talk about number 4. Okay, I admit that this next game is not necessarily a Nintendo IP since it's now owned by Microsoft, but I threw it in here because of the fond memories I have of it and also the fact that it was exclusive to the Nintendo 64 back in the day, and that being Jet Force Gemini at number 4. You get to play as one of the 3 main characters, which is the remaining characters of a group of the once proud and strong military organization called Jet Force. The trio must stop the advances of the dark insect tyrant known as Mizar and his near-endless army. I actually believe this was my first third-person shooter that I ever played when I was a kid, and I remember actually loving this game. Plus, as a kid, it was the first time seeing like enemies getting like blown up and all this blood splatter and even collecting the heads of your insect enemies. Just a super fun game that I would recommend playing, but once again, it's not owned by Nintendo now, so I'll just leave it at that. There was no way I could make a list like this without including Star Fox in it at number 3. This is without a doubt one series that has the most potential for the Switch 2. This series has always been a fan favorite for many OGs out there just because of Star Fox 64 alone. As I said before, the Switch 2 alongside its supposed upgraded hardware capabilities could provide a whole new experience of how you want to play Star Fox. It doesn't need anything too special or groundbreaking, but enough to redefine how we play Star Fox as a whole. All I can really say is that Nintendo has really done Star Fox dirty in the past couple of years, even having a game on the Switch that has all our favorite characters in it, but not be the main characters themselves. Star Fox literally has been demoted to a side character, much like Donkey Kong, appearing in games that don't necessarily have anything to do with them being the main character. However, there is another franchise that had a huge fall from grace and not even only doesn't get much love as it used to back in the day, but has simply lost sort of that spark of creativity. And I'm talking about Bomberman at number 2. Ever since Konami bought out Hudson Soft, there has been a huge drop off of the Bomberman series. It just feels like the Bomberman games are lacking the care and innovation that previous games used to have. I was introduced to the series with Bomberman 64, which had a pretty good story and pretty good villains as well, not to mention having a really fun multiplayer mode where you battle against each other or CPUs in a battle royale to be the last man standing. And the games following after 64 like Bomberman Heroes, Jetters, and even Bomberman 64 The Second Attack, just to name a few, were all extremely interesting games in their own unique way. And I wished we'd get more games like that instead of what we get from Bomberman R. I understand that the recent games for Bomberman are basically how it used to be back when the series first began, but I just want something a little bit more grand alongside a good multiplayer mode similar to what 64 gave us. Well, maybe there's hope with the Switch 2's lifespan, I guess. And finally, at number 1, we have Golden Sun. Now, since my channel typically involves talking about RPGs, it only makes sense that I end things off discussing about Golden Sun. This series, at the time of its release, left such a strong impression on me, so much so that I damn near cried when I saw Golden Sun Dark Dawn getting announced on the DS. Now, compared to the first two games, which were pretty much split into two games simply because of how long and ambitious they were, Dark Dawn did seem like it was sort of missing that spark that got me into the series in the first place. But even so, I was still invested enough to continue the story after the original characters had grown up into adults and had kids, just to see what new adventures awaited them and this new generation of heroes. Like, I was certain that we were going to get a chain of new entries that would help explain more of the lore behind certain characters, like Alex and the Wise One, but instead we've got nothing after Dark Dawn. There have been many people, including myself, who have been wanting this game to come back to perhaps maybe reboot the series or just continue with this legendary series. And if you guys have never really played Golden Sun, I highly recommend it. Trust me, you won't be disappointed. Some might argue that reviving these franchises could lead to market saturation or that gaming preferences have shifted too far. However, the benefits of revisiting these classic titles far outweigh the potential risks, and Nintendo can breathe new life into these franchises by incorporating modern day gameplay mechanics, updated graphics, and of course some innovative storytelling. These classic franchises have a timeless quality to them, and their return would bring a sense of excitement and wonder to the gaming community. Their return would also be a huge celebration of Nintendo's rich history and a testament to the power of nostalgia when it comes to video games. But what game franchise would you guys like to make a huge comeback on the Switch 2? Let me know in the comments below. Alright, there you have it guys. Once again, if you enjoyed anything, please leave a like on the video for me to help push it into that algorithm, and subscribe if you haven't already if you're feeling even more generous. It really does help me out a ton. Either way, I appreciate it all the same, and with that guys, I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.